And a very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of This Week in Flyers Hockey. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you. And join me as always. We got a jam-packed show for you today alongside the man himself, Joey Marks, and Austin Hammel. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this very exciting Monday going into the holiday break? But first and foremost, how are you guys doing on this very important Monday?
I'm doing great. After that week, believe it or not, I know people might think, well, we had lost three of the four games. There's a lot to be excited about despite all that, and I'll get into that as the show goes along.
Sure thing there. And Austin Hammel's joining us once again. Austin, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Honestly, same thought process as Joe, man. It was, even though the record shows differently, it was actually a really solid week for Philadelphia. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys and looking forward to the games coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's break it down, shall we? The Flyers at the beginning of the week, they got a couple good wins out. I mean, I guess the first game of the week was against San Jose, so they got a good win on a 4-1 count. It looked very well that night. The real big storyline coming into the game, the last couple games, obviously, is they was on a little bit of a, wouldn't say a losing streak, but something to build on. Obviously, will be the right terminology for it. So, for me, so Vegas was a game that they almost got the game won, but the difference was it was just that they tied the game late, but the difference was Vegas was the better team. And then running into a buzzsaw with Carolina, especially as well. So, Joey, I'll ask you this first question here with this couple losses here. Are we gonna? Is there anything to be concerned about, like coming into the week with this Flyers team, or is this exactly where you thought there would be at this point in time this season?
I kind of go with neither. I honestly think that, believe it or not, with the losses, this team's a lot further along than I thought they would be. The record might not show it and reflect it, but some of the effort, some of the resilience, some of the things. I am kind of putting a moniker on this season. Steal a point, because some of these teams, let's face it, okay, the Knights and the Canes, they're both teams that really should handle the Flyers pretty well. They should beat the Flyers pretty well. And on a side note, I'm really starting to hate the Golden Knights. And I know they're a West Coast team, but I'm really starting to hate the Golden Knights. Like, can they be any greedier of a freaking franchise with all the guys that they have on their team? Can we just let the other teams have a chance? But no,
I feel you on that, man.
I honestly, with the Knights and them going into overtime, stealing a point from the Knights, stealing 2 points. And I know people must say, well, when you bring a team into the overtime, then you could steal more than 1 point. Yeah, I get that. But with the two teams, the Canes and the Knights, they should have beaten the Flyers. Like, both teams should have beaten the Flyers. The Flyers should have been like, 0-3, which they were, but like without any points to show for it. And honestly, they had 3 points to show for it, and that's better than nothing at this point. But 4 games they pulled out this week, and they pulled out 5 points. And they pulled out 5 points against three really good teams. And I gotta say, like, this team is showing me a lot of heart, because I thought, especially the last game against Carolina in Carolina, down 0-2, down 2 goals. I honestly thought, okay, this is where the old Flyers team rolls over and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just decided no, they weren't going to. They chipped away and they got back into it, and they took it to overtime. And again, just like my moniker, they stole a point. This is going to be a team that throughout the course of this season is going to face teams that are better than them. They just are. They have to steal points where you can. And this week was a prime example of that. And plus, you that whole adage of once you get into overtime, anything goes, you could still steal that second point, sure. But if this team is taking the good teams to overtime or to the shootouts frequently, that I think favors the Flyers going forward.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Especially like you said, with the way that they are down but never out in any game that they've been playing so far this season. I mean, even specifically the Golden Knights game more than anything, because Vegas had us a bit trying to figure out what we were really trying to do in the first period. They were really aggressive, and we just wound up going into the locker room end of the first period, coming back out, matching their intensity. Like, this is a team that is able to adapt and overcome very, very easily for any situation that they're put into. And it shows both with the play on the ice and like how they're picking each other up after plays too, like after whistles and stuff. Like they're talking a lot, they're communicating a ton. Like you could tell, I think it was the Saturday game against Carolina. There was a point Couturier had the puck down on the low boards during the power play. He looks at Drysdale and just gives him this little motion, like, get back up top. And as he goes past Couturier just rips a shot. Like, they're communicating very well, and it's showing in the play, both like between whistles and after whistles, how they're really working well with each other.
Yeah, and I think you guys both nailed it on the head about what the couple of losses that they felt like. And it's like, we talked about it before, Austin. It's like, we talked about that this is like very good losses that the Flyers could have, you know? And the positive is here, too, with this Flyers team, like I talked about all last week, is that even when they lose games, they don't like, I mean, if this was like 2018-19 Flyers, like, this is a team that will just get annihilated, you know? And now they have that same level. I think that the same feel they got now is that I feel probably as I felt like probably in that 2019-2020 year, when they were just getting their feet under them before obviously COVID got in the way and everything shut it down. But this team is very, very resilient. I think it's a very good team here that we have here, that come when the time calls for it, when the big teams come into Philadelphia, and also when you take on good teams. Getting to a shootout against Carolina is never like one thing that I looked at this weekend. I said to myself, these losses are not even like, even that Saturday game when they gave Carolina back the lead and like 15 seconds later they tied the game up just like that, like put them back on their heels. I mean, that's what kind of like the style of hockey that we've been missing for a long time now. And I think that's the one thing that's been a very, I mean, it's kind of spring. I think for sure this week, like, those wins will come back and springboard and go back on a little bit of a streak here. But I think the other thing that what the Flyers have really done very, very well is that sometimes when they play to the competition, like, they can beat anybody. And I mean, sure, they ran into a buzzsaw with Bussy, who's been on a tear as of lately with that Hurricanes team. Kochekov, like, very look well, but we were containing him too, and also we contained Schmidt along the way too. Obviously, we probably wanted to see Carter Hart return to Philadelphia, but obviously that's another story for another time. But I'm just really, I think for me, I think the one thing that was really the positive going into the week is that there's they keep on building in. And they've been looking like a very good team, and sometimes when it matters the most, when the Flyers get ready to make that big jump for the postseason, I think they can be a very good team come playoff time. All right, so I wanted to talk about you guys here with the standout performances this week. So Joey, I'll ask you this: is there anybody out there that you looked at this Flyers team that stood out to you this week with the Flyers?
Absolutely. This guy has got to be one of the guys that not only makes me watch the Flyers with more entertainment value, he gives me more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's Dan Villard. He has been like, we have talked about this ad nauseum on this show, James.
Sure.
That the goaltender and getting a goaltender that is a starting goaltender in the NHL is so imperative, because it's the difference between you staying in close games or you just getting completely boat raced every time out. And Dan Villard has just been an aberration. And I understand he's not the future goaltender. Like, he's not the franchise goaltender. But if you are telling me that this is the stopgap goaltender for this franchise until we find that franchise goaltender, sign me up. He's the guy that held us in all 4 of those games, pretty much. I know Erison had one start in those 4 games, but when Villard is in that net, he's almost like he's this confidence builder for that
Yeah,
defense. And I gotta say that some of the saves he's been making on these really talented teams just makes me more and more confident that this guy's just not like an AHL backup goaltender like we've had in the past year or two. Like
sure.
that is the difference. He's my standout player, not only for this week, but up to this point in the season. He is my standout player.
Austin?
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, Joe, I completely agree with you. Vladar has been absolutely electric this entire year, and being able to get him at a premium that we got him at has been even better. It more like what's the term I'm looking for? Like more like icing on the cake to go along with that. But the 2 guys that I want to point out this week were what's his name? I just wrote it down and now I don't have it anymore. Because my wife needed the book.
Zegras?
No, not Zegras. One of the younger guys that just got
Dvorak?
called up. One of the younger guys that just got called this week. Not Murchison, the other one. Grabinskin or whatever.
Grabankin.
Yeah, not Grabankin. It was another guy. Because he just got his first goal. He's number 91 on the team.
Grunstrom.
There it is. Him and Noah Juleson.
Yeah,
Juleson, that heads up play to hop right off the bench on that switch and immediately get into a position of really strong attack in that Carolina game to get that one-timer to put the game into a bit more of a fighting chance. Absolutely heads up play by him. He's been playing really good defense the past couple of weeks. And then Grunstrom getting his first NHL goal. And on top of that, Konechny getting career points 500 and 501 throughout this week. Those are all, especially for Grunstrom and Konechny, really awesome achievements to make throughout your NHL career. Getting your first and having the longevity to see 500 plus it's always awesome to see. And hats off to both of those guys for reaching those milestones. Grunstrom, I have a strange feeling in the next couple of years, we'll see him lighting the lamp a few more times. He's playing very good heads up hockey in the time that he's been up here with Philadelphia. And Konechny, I don't see him going anywhere. I see him getting at least another 200 points before he's done. So rounding out at probably closer to 800 than 700. But just overall, like we've been talking about so far, the performance top to bottom for Philadelphia this week, even though, again, we're stating, losing 3 of them in overtime or a shootout, still really promising play from this team. And those 2 shootout losses against Carolina, first 2 shootout losses that we've had all season long. Mm-hmm. So
it's pretty amazing to think about that.
You take that with an even bigger grain of salt because of the fact that you've been in extra hockey so often this year. Mm-hmm. To not lose in a shootout says a lot. Like your games are either ending before it gets there, or when they get there, you're just dominant in your play in the shootout. Like Michkov and Zegras alone are both extremely dangerous one-on-one players that getting to a shootout, you are, for more often than not, are potentially looking down a 2-0 barrel in a shootout if you don't have guys that are good one-on-one. So if we can see this kind of consistent play and have these results start to turn our way, look out, Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best there. You guys both said it best here. Vladar, who's been having himself a very intriguing year, I thought for sure. Right? I mean, you think about goaltenders in this for this Flyers team, it's like 1,000,000 to 1. Sometimes when it matters the most, but overall, the one thing I would say about Grunstrom, I saw his play. I think it was with the Kings probably a few years ago, and I said to myself, man, he's one guy that kind of reminds me of Joey. This will probably blow your mind here, but like that 91 kind of reminds me of Vladimir Tarasenko a little bit, of how much he could shoot that puck like a Tarasenko type of goal. Because like that goal he scored against the Hurricanes on Saturday, I said to myself, that's kind of like Tarasenko-esque. But like sometimes when it really matters the most, I gotta say right now, I'm a big fan of like the unknown. You know how much I'm a big fan of the Rasmus Ristolainens, and also, I mean, Grunstrom. When we got him, I said, okay, so maybe he's a very good player. You can put on that 3rd line or 4th line and see what he's made of. But I gotta say right now, like that, if the one thing that Grunstrom has shown me a lot of poise this week is that like something that the Flyers can really move on here, and I actually can basically you can do here for the fourth line. It actually can help them and give a little bit of a boost here, especially for that fourth line with Abels and I think it's a Delorier once in a while, and especially having that guy on the fourth line could actually help you out a little bit along the way. And also too, I got to give kudos to the all the lines that they have also like adjusted here to this team. I mean, the first line's been good with Zegras and Dvorak and Travis Konechny, even like the Krabank and Brink and Kate's line. I mean, I think this is the team that I really thought in many years, I never thought this would happen to this Flyers team because, I mean, obviously we waited a long time to see this, but I think now more than ever is that I actually feel very good about this team. Getting 2 points out of it in Carolina, even though you lost in shootouts, is a very good boost. Like you said, they're Austin. That could be like a dangerous threat for like other teams that are going to be playing the Flyers going into later in the season. And the other thing too is that with San Jose, I mean, keeping Celebrini in check was a really good positive too, because I mean, obviously you hear so much about him or Will Smith, and keeping them in check. I mean, that was a really good game for them too. So for me, the standout performance of the week is I gotta give. I think you guys are both. I think it's like for Ledard for the goaltending, and also how Grunstrom has become a good perseverance on that team as well, and to see what he looks like. And that's going to probably springboard into like this week coming up here against Montreal on Tuesday, and again they take on the Sabres on Thursday, and let alone the Rangers and Matinee on Saturday. So it's going to be some exciting hockey along the way. So hopefully they'll be continuing to as they continue to build here, they move one step closer to where they're going to be at, especially in this season alone.
You know, the one thing, James, that we haven't said about this Flyers team in quite some time. And I think with Grunstrom and, you know, even some of these guys that are in the juniors in college and that haven't come up yet, and we're still dealing with injuries, you know, with Forrester and whatnot. Yeah. Here's a word we have not thrown around with the Flyers in quite some time: depth. This team is showing, and you know what? When we talked to JJ on the offseason, that was one of the things he said is that we had some depth at certain positions, but not at others.
Right.
But if we could improve in some of those positions we lacked depth, this team would be pretty dangerous because they would have depth pretty much at most of the positions, especially when, and we talked about this before, if we have that depth and then you add a certifiable goaltender, this team could be sneaky good. And you know, if you steal points from these good teams and you sneak into the playoff at the 8 or 7 or 8 seed, guess what? You're going to end up playing a good team. But in the playoffs, if you steal wins, if you go into the overtime and you steal wins, now all of a sudden that team that comes in that's so talented goes, okay, they got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I go back to Florida a couple years ago,
right?
You know, and Boston a couple years ago, when they were both came in and were like the 8 seeds and like did some major damage. Right. My thing is this: the Flyers continue to show their depth and show their resilience and show how much skill they really have in this organization. It's going to the guys like Grunstrom that we're talking about this week. There may be other guys that we start talking about, newer guys that we start talking about as well in the next couple months that we go, wow, this guy's going to really contribute to the Flyers' future.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing here too, is that for me the other thing too is here, and we'll move on after this here. I think games like this, like I always say, basically, if you have a good game and you also lose in a shootout or you lose in overtime, but you at least you got the point out of it, down the road, they're going to find a way to get some wins, like when it matters the most. I think that's going to be the most important key here, is that I think for me, when they lose games in overtime in a shootout, like somehow in some way, when the time gets closer to crunch time and they start to pile up some wins to try to get where they are as a team and also what they're going to be seeding at in the postseason. I mean, that could also springboard along the way, too, to see what they'll look like against teams and probably go on streaks like that, like it was in 2010 when they got into the shootout and they just took it to the finals. I mean, you never know in the postseason. Like that's the thing about Flyers hockey is that, like, this team could really be a scary team come playoff time, without a doubt.
Yep, magic carpet ride, man.
Yep, for sure. For sure. All right, let's move on here. So the Flyers are coming up this week, like I mentioned early on. They are in Montreal again tomorrow. They take on the Habs, and then they take on the Sabres on Thursday at Buffalo. And then they head to the Rangers to take on head to New York to take on the Rangers to close out the road trip. And then they'll have one more game to go, and then they close out the 2025 holiday break against Vancouver here in South Philly. So, Joey, I'll ask you this. How do you think the Flyers will do this week?
Well, with the 3 games that you mentioned, the Canadiens, the Sabres, and the Rangers, I honestly think this team could go 2-1. They went up and they beat Montreal the last time, and there's no reason that they couldn't repeat that. But Montreal is a difficult team to play in Canada, and look.
Caulfield's really good, man.
Right. And so for me, it's like tempt fate once, get lucky and accept it. Tempt fate twice and get buried and not speak about it ever again.
Yeah, right.
So like my feeling is I think now look, this is once again, I sit here and say that they could lose to the Canadiens, but I want to preface this: steal a point. If they could take the Canadiens to overtime, that's still stealing a point, and then you beat the Sabres and the Rangers, you're still walking out of that week of 3 games, that 3-game stretch with 5 points, just like you did with this week. You start adding these weeks up with 5 points a week here and there, that's going to put you in really good position.
For sure. Yeah, also same question to you. How do you think the Orange and Black does this week against those 3 teams I mentioned?
Yeah, I'm right there with Joe. I feel like 2-1 is a fair assessment for where the week could go for Philadelphia. An overtime or shootout loss with Montreal, followed up by wins in both Buffalo and New York. Especially against the Rangers, man. They only have 4 wins at home this year. They're still really, really trying to figure out how to win at home. Yeah. So they're still having that bit of trouble. But I mean, during this stretch, Philadelphia could end up getting bolstered at the blue line with a player returning. So there's always variables for how the week could adjust that prediction as time goes on. But I feel like 2-1 is the fair assessment. Well, 2-0-1 technically.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a little bit of a homer here, but I think the Flyers win all 3 of those games. I think for sure. Yeah, Caulfield is going to be a threat, but the difference is, I mean, Montreal, they are beatable. I mean, they still got some opportunities. I mean, sure, they got who's the goaltender?
Well, we beat them in Montreal earlier.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can probably beat them again.
Possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, especially with how Philadelphia has been playing. To be able to walk up there and be like, "Hey guys, we're back. Time to do it again," and just walk through them again, like. It's absolutely possible. This team has proven that everything that we think that they can do, they end up exceeding that expectation every time.
So, I mean, absolutely. That's the thing with some of these better teams, like the Canes and the Canadiens and the Knights. Like they come in and look, they have every reason to feel this way. They have talented teams. But they come in and they think, okay, it's the Flyers. Like they're not as good as us. Right? They're not as good as us. Like they already have the confidence level out the door. But when they begin to realize is that the Flyers don't buy into that. They're like, okay, you guys might think we're a cakewalk, but we're gonna make this really painful for you. We're going to make this really hard on you.
For sure.
And if you want to beat us, fine. You're going to beat us. But we're going to make it really difficult for you to do it.
Yeah, make it complicated, right?
Right. We're going to be the fly in the ointment here.
Yeah. It's going to be like a fly on the wall, like they basically Like they're trying to get the fly out, but the difference is he keeps on coming back. It's the
Uh,
same thing. So, yeah, I mean, for me, the last time the one thing I would say though, the last time they met Montreal, the thing that was a little bit of a critique that the Flyers had is that when they had a 3-0, was it 3 or 4-0 lead in the first period? I forget what it was, but they had a good first period, but then the second period became their flaw a little bit, kind of like what's been going on for this team for the last couple games too. And I just still don't understand how their second period is their kryptonite. I don't understand it. But I think for me, the one thing you got to do this time around is that you got to keep a guy on. You got to keep Cole Caulfield in check. I mean, that's the one thing you got to do, especially more than anything. And I think they've done that very well this week with Vegas. I mean, they did an okay job with Eichel, but the difference was the reason why Eichel had an opportunity was because Konecny coughed up the puck. Then I think the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, I think they kept everybody in check. I think they kept Jarvis in check. I think they kept Ehlers and also Svechnikov in check. But if the Flyers, hopefully if the Flyers, like say for example, are in the same boat as you guys and say, okay, they lose to Montreal, but they go to overtime and get that point out of it, and they beat Buffalo, and then they beat the Rangers, and I feel pretty good about 5 points about that. I mean, at least it's something. I mean, that's the thing about this Flyers team is that, like, the way they lose games, it's a positive loss. I mean, that's what I've been saying for the last handful of times. I mean, there's like, yeah, sure, there was a clunker here and there with Dallas. Sure, there was a clunker here and there against another team here and there. I mean, the Penguins game was a clunker here and there, but sometimes they bounce back right away. I mean, kudos to Tom Fedoruk for bringing that up here a couple weeks ago, saying that like when the Flyers lose the game, like they lose like 4-1 or 5-1, the next game they bounce back instantly, and that's the most important thing I think for this Flyers team going forward is that. Yeah, if let's say, for example, they lose tomorrow to Montreal, but they'll bounce back right away against the Sabres and springboard that into a streak with the Rangers and come home against Vancouver and close out the holiday break at home with the Vancouver Canucks coming to town. I'll be okay with 5 points more than anything going to make, guys.
I mean, here's the thing, and this is something we really haven't mentioned as much, and, Austin kind of mentioned it a bit, is the in-game adjustments that have happened and what you're saying, James, about the bounce-back games.
Sure.
You got to give a lot of kudos to Coach Tocchet. I mean, this is a guy that, came in and we had expectations, especially because of the talent that was on this team and some of the past success that he's had with younger teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, year one, I'm very impressed. I'm very satisfied right now. Look, James, me, you, and Patrick Bernard used to say, after 20 games, 25 games in the NHL season, then I'll be able to really see what this team is. And when you see this team after the amount of games they've played so far, you start to see really what this identity of this team is that they are not willing to just, accept who they are, which is, if to everyone else, they're just average. To everyone else in the league, they're just average. Because if you look around to some of those better teams like the Canadiens and Canes and Knights and so on and so forth, you have multiple star names on those teams.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear. And so we're average. We're the average Joe team. But when we steal points from those good teams that have those stars, then all of a sudden people are going to, and you do it enough, all of a sudden people, and we are looking at like the 7 or 8 seed in the playoffs, all of a sudden people are going to be like, whoa, where did the Flyers come from?
Right.
Yeah, this is a team that not only did people think the team was washed, but a bunch of the talent that's on the team was washed. Couturier, Konecny, Zegras with the falling out that he had with Anaheim. Not a lot of people were really big on Jamie Drysdale in Anaheim before that trade was made. So there's a lot of guys like a lot of guys think that a lot of other people think that, Philadelphia is down and out. These guys are not like all that good coming into this season.
For sure.
The expectation was low. So Philadelphia has been playing with house money this year. Mm-hmm. They're 16-9-6 through 31 games, guys.
It's pretty amazing. It's
Like,
pretty amazing.
to put it into perspective for you, the Florida Panthers are 16-13-2.
Wow.
Like that's crazy.
That's
Crazy
insane.
to me. It's
unbelievable.
Like I said, it's playing with house money. Like knowing that your expectation, according to pundits and stuff, is so low that you can just do whatever. Not necessarily do whatever you want, but you can more play your style of game and really force the issue on everyone else to have to try and pick up how you're trying to play.
Right.
And they've done that every single game they've gone out there this year. I genuinely thought that we would maybe have hit 10 wins at this point.
Especially when you look at Austin, looking at 16 at 9-6. Like, let's understand something. Those 16 wins and all of that whole record, those are against really good teams. That for the vast majority. I mean, we played the Canadians, we played the Panthers twice early. Like there's a part of this where we're playing these really good teams. Yes. Have we mixed in some really bad teams? Sure. But like you would think at this point, with what people are considering an average talented roster of a team, that having 16 wins, we must have played really Mickey Mouse kind of schedule up to this point. And we haven't. We've played really talented teams and we're hanging with them. And that is the part of this that almost kind of builds my confidence more, because I've already seen a litmus test of this team. And so I know where their struggles are and I know where their successes are. And so I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but with playing with house money for a team like the Flyers, they feel like put any team in front of us, we'll always have a chance to beat them.
Yeah, and you talked about playing like really high caliber teams. The only real one that we haven't gotten a win against is Carolina. And all three of our games have gone into extra hockey. The first one was an overtime loss, and the two over the weekend were shootout losses. Those could have easily been Flyers wins. Could very easily have been wins by Philadelphia. So you can't really discredit, the fact that we haven't beaten Carolina as a dark spot on this record so far for Philadelphia, because they've stolen points from every single game against Carolina so far this year.
We've taken Carolina, a really good team, as you mentioned. We've taken them to the limit, and we're just the Flyers. We're just the Flyers. Y'all are the Carolina Hurricane. You guys have put in a lot of equity into your team. We're just the Flyers. So we're
talking about other high caliber teams that Philadelphia has beaten. We beat Montreal in the shootout. We beat St. Louis in a shootout, and also in overtime. We've dismantled New Jersey. Even the Colorado game, we may have lost that game, but I talked about it last week with you, James.
Sure.
That easily, Philadelphia could have easily won that game if it wasn't for the fact that Colorado's defense and goaltending was just spectacular that entire 60 minutes. Like that easily could have gone 4-3 Philadelphia, or even the other way. It could have the floodgates could have opened up for Colorado, and it could have been a 6-1, 7-1 win for them. So you look at not only the strength of the schedule, but the games that we have played. If you actually review the film, like these are all very hard fought games, win, lose, or otherwise. Like we've been saying, like I said, I started saying it 2 weeks ago, and I said it again last week, and it was featured as a short and a reel and stuff on the Hardcore Sports Network. Hockey's back in Philadelphia. I am stamping the flag down. Flyers hockey is back, and it is very exciting to watch. It has been incredible that this team just shows every ounce of wanting to try and win a game, and we haven't seen that in a few years, because most of the time when 2 goals would get scored, that entire team would just flatline. And now it's like the blood pressure rises, they get angry, and they come out and they open up. And they're making teams scratch and claw to the very last possible moment to be able to try and win a game against them. And it's like we've said, it's all high caliber clubs like Colorado, St. Louis, Florida, back-to-back Cup champs. We've taken them to task. Like all these teams, like Carolina is a very, very prospective team for a big playoff push. And we've taken them to the limit all 3 games that we've played them. So like you cannot discount this team going down the stretch of this season as being a team that you can just easily look through and go to your next game on your schedule. We're not going to let you do that. And we have the talent to prove to you why you shouldn't do that.
Now, the 2 big questions will be what this team does when we start to approach the trade deadline. You know, whether they, in using a baseball terminology, whether they're buyers or they're sellers. You know, that's going to be a real interesting question. Whether or not Danny Briere and Keith Jones says, let's put our chips in, it's time. Or they say, no, it's okay. Let's ride what we have. Let the house money ride, and let's just see what we can do and build. The other question is going to be, due to the Winter Olympics, there's going to be this big hiatus for these hockey players, and they're going to go overseas and they're going to compete in the Olympics. My thing is going to be, with all this momentum, and I've seen this in the past when hot NHL has taken a hiatus for the Winter Olympics. Sometimes hot teams they kind of almost like fizzle out when they come back from the Winter Olympics. And my thing is, if I'm Rick Tocchet, if I'm the coaching staff, if I'm like Danny Briere and Keith Jones, I am figuring out, because they all 3 of them know that has happened in Flyers past, where Flyers have had a torrid first half before the Winter Olympics, and then coming back from the Winter Olympics, they fizzled out. This is going to be really what is going to make and break this season. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important just to steal points in the beginning of this, because if we could start, planting our flag in that playoff hunt early on, and we have a plan coming out of the Winter Olympics to be able to not fizzle, but reignite. I think that's going to make this season, especially in the home stretch, very interesting, especially depending on how Danny Briere and Keith Jones handles the trade deadline.
Right.
Yeah, and even more so when you think about, there's the possibility that the NHL players won't even go to the Olympics because apparently the rink quality has not been very good. So there is a very strong possibility that these guys don't even go. So they spend that entire time just keeping themselves up to tempo. And then there's the possibility that you don't even get a chance to see that, post-break fizzle out. So
might be a good thing.
But also at the same time, like, I totally understand, being a player in the NHL and wanting to be able to represent your country on the biggest stage possible for hockey, which is the Olympics when you really think about it. Granted, the four nations, the Hockey World Cup, all those things are all good and well, but the winning an Olympic medal as any sort of an athlete is probably the absolute highest level that you can attain. And to have these guys starting to, think of like, there's a real possibility that, we're going over there and we're going to get a chance to play for the first time in a long time. And at the last minute, that rug gets pulled out. That could also be a thing where a lot of those guys that were looking forward to going over and representing their countries in the Olympics have the rug pulled, and they lose all of that personal morale of knowing that they were going to be representing their country. And that could lead to a fizzle out for a team. So like, going into that break, there's a lot of potential variables, and you really hope that, especially for Philadelphia, that those kinds of things don't end up affecting you in a negative way, and you can try and build positives off of that, which is something we here have been talking about for a long time, is positives for this Flyers team in general.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of positives, so let's move on here as we go forward here. The injury report actually came out this week, and it's a little bit of good news for the Philadelphia Flyers, is that there was a couple of defensemen that were missing in action, and the positive is that we saw Cam York back last night against the Hurricanes, which is a positive going forward. And the other thing too is that Rasmus Ristolainen is on the verge of coming back very, very soon. I don't think there's no timetable for Tyson Foerster coming back, so I'm expecting he's still suffering
He's still going to be out a while.
He's going to be out for a while. Okay, I would have figured that. I would have figured that.
Shoulder related is always along the shelf.
Yeah, believe it. Yeah, actually, it's funny because I said to myself is that I think somebody else had a troublesome shoulder too during the week when they took on the Flyers or something, and they No, it was Connor Bedard. Excuse me, it was Connor Bedard had the same injury that Forster had, and he's going to be out for a little bit of time. I don't know if this is substantial of the minor league injury. I don't know if it's a minor injury or if it's just that he just had a stinger or something like that, or it could be worse, like Tyson Forster.
When Tyson Forster got hurt, the first initial diagnosis I heard was 3 to 4 weeks. Now that can be reevaluated later on,
sure,
if it's longer. But when I heard 3 to 4 weeks, I was so down because I was like, this guy was going on a tour streak, and I was like, man, this guy's coming into a stride that I don't think any of us really saw coming. But we said this in the beginning of the season. When Tyson comes back, the hope is that he can be as good as he was, if not better. But we said this in the beginning of the season. This team is going to not its makeup isn't just going to be that front line. It's not just going to be Owen Tippett, Couturier, and TK.
Or Zegras.
Or Zegras or Mishkov. It's not going to be any of those guys. It's going to be guys like Bobby Brink, Tyson Forster, Nolan Cates. Mm-hmm. It's going to be guys like that step up and start to shine. And I look at this team, and I honestly, and James, maybe you can remind me maybe the era or the time period, but I'm reminded of the transition period between Simon Gagne into Claude Giroux's era, where Simon Gagne was still on the team with Giroux, but he was an older guy. He was a wily veteran, and it just feels that way. Like someone like Coots and TK, they're both trying to hand the reins off to these kids and give them the best chances to be superstars in this league.
I remember too when I think it was like Forsberg and Gagne too, like same kind of philosophy, you know what I mean? So it was kind of like Forsberg, Gagne, Claude Giroux, Simon Gagne, same things as you said.
I want to say that was the 07, 08 season or
somewhere
around there.
It was like either 08, 09. It was around before the Cup final. I know.
Yes.
It dawned, and the light bulb came up. I was like, I remember. It was Claude Giroux and Gagne. I think we're on the same line, and then it was kind of like Gagne was the veteran, and Claude Giroux was coming into his own.
Yep, and like that was the thing is Claude Giroux at that time was under Simon Gagne's wing. Simon Gagne at that point, became the veteran, but this is a guy with Simon Gagne that was a scorer. Mm-hmm. He was a leader. He was a basically a stat stuffer, if you want to use that term. And so maybe just maybe this team, and that's why I brought up the word depth. Because when you start to look at some of these other guys that start to come up, and all the other draft picks and moves that Briere and Keith Jones can make, it's going to be interesting because they're making diamonds out of these coals. Drysdale is a guy that everyone just wrote off, and we could be making him into a diamond. Zegras, absolutely, people thought we wrote him off. And he is coming in, and he's a glistening diamond in this team. And so you start to bring in more and more of those guys, and I'm not talking about trade, but I'm just talking about in general. And you start to see these guys mature. Man, it's going to get interesting because the best era in Flyers hockey was when this team had depth.
Yep. I think it's back again too, Joe. Yep. I do agree.
I agree with Austin. I'm willing to plant the flag. It's back.
As do I.
And you know what? Until the Sixers prove differently, the Xfinity Mobile Arena is now the Flyers Mobile Arena.
Yep, it's gonna be like that orange, that sea of orange is gonna be coming back at real full force and come April, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'll tack a fun little note on as we're talking
Sure.
about the depth and stuff. The only player that is listed on the Flyers injury report currently is Rasmus Ristolainen, and he is expected to be back sometime this week.
Nice.
Interesting.
Tyson Forrester is not listed.
Huh.
That's interesting.
Maybe they are doing what James is suggesting. Is
Monitoring
that
him.
they're keeping him day to day and monitoring whether during
See how he feels as morning skates
and,
go on.
Yeah, and see how that goes and make it a game time decision. That's good. I like that.
And
I like that too.
I looked into the Bedard injury for you, James.
Yeah.
He is not expected to return until the calendar flips to 2026.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
That's gonna hurt.
That is a rough spot to have right now for Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. Well, at least Forster is not as bad as it seems. Wow, that's crazy. Damn.
Yeah. Insane to think that once Risto comes back, that injury list empty.
Yeah, empty. It's gonna be really empty.
Yeah, Bunk got reinstated last week and got sent down to the AHL, and we called up Grunstrom. Right. They said in the transaction list, I think it was the 6th. It said they moved Forster to the IR, but he's not there. Yeah, they placed him on injured reserve December 3rd. December 6th, they called up Ty Murchison, and there's been no transaction since. The only player showing up on an injury report is Rasmus Ristolainen. And he's with the Flyers on the road right now and is close to returning to action, according to NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Interesting.
Well, you got to keep in mind. So, like, all these guys that they're, bringing in up and down off of the AHL is different than the juniors and the college scene. Yeah. So, currently, the Flyers, I think, have like 4 or 5 prospects, both in juniors and the college scene, that honestly, they're just waiting for them to finish and come in. You add those to the already, deep sea that is the AHL and the Phantoms. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at, okay, who do we want to bring up? And that's one of the reasons why I say it's going to be an interesting situation for Danny Briere and Keith Jones come trade deadline, whether buyers or sellers. Because when you say, okay, they're sellers, and you go, okay, why are you sellers? We're good. Well, but you're selling because you may want to free up spots for those depth pieces to come up in order to position yourself in a better light. For example, if you traded Sean Couturier and Juleson,
sure,
let's just say, and you get like a really good player. So it's a 2-for-1. What does that do? You upgrade your talent with that trade, and you bring in you open another spot for another depth piece to come up,
sure,
and really grow with this team. There's how by selling in the NHL you can progress forward in the NHL.
The old addition by subtraction.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
It's proven useful for many franchises over the years, and there's a very strong possibility it could work out for Philadelphia. Shoot, I was talking with you, I think it was 2 weeks ago, James, the possibility of Ristolainen maybe coming back, getting some work in just to be a trade piece to offload some of that contract money, not only freeing up the roster spot, but freeing up cap space.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of how this year ends, you have that cap space for next season to work out for maybe signing another guy to bring in to help bolster this roster. And even if you don't do that and you use that cap space in a trade to acquire another piece, you have those options now. Even if you don't move Ristolainen and you just bring him up because you activate him because he's good to go and it's addition there, you still have a really solid roster regardless. So you already know that these guys that are down in the AHL are ready at a moment's notice with how they've been playing so far. Should something happen to another guy, you have those guys ready to come up and take those places and be able to work in the spaces that they were creating that they can then create for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on here. So tonight we got a couple games on the slate around the National. So tonight we got Florida taking on Tampa Bay. We got the Ducks and the Rangers at New York taking on the Rangers. We got Ottawa and Winnipeg. The Kings taking on the Stars, and we got Nashville taking on St. Louis. So, mind you, too, I think this might be one game tonight. I might have to say, you know what, screw this. I might be just playing some Madden or probably some NHL on the Xbox because these games are good, but they're not as good matchups. Maybe one sticks out to me is probably Florida and Tampa, but honestly, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I think Florida and Tampa Bay is fair. I just
it's not a good match. It's not a good Monday night of NHL action. Maybe it's it's not the best.
Well, I mean, look. Here's my thing: is the Ottawa Winnipeg's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
that might be a little intriguing, but those are the only two that really stand out to me.
Yeah,
it's Ottawa and Winnipeg and Florida and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean the Ducks and Rangers. Rangers never wins at home. Blues in Nashville. That's like enough. I mean, maybe unless Stamkos comes out of his shell again and scores 4 more goals against the Blues. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I look at Anaheim and New York. No offense, I'm not a big Ducks fan. I think they always copy the Flyers every which way with the orange and black. So, but yeah, I mean, Winnipeg to me is kind of a shocker because last year they were one of the top teams in the Western Conference, and I said to myself, "Is damn, they really took a downfall." And the Dallas Stars and Kings. I mean, yeah, I like the Stars. I mean, it's not Mike Modano's Dallas Stars. I mean, I like Anze Kopitar, but Kopitar has a couple more games left until he calls it a career. I mean, I think at the end of the season he's calling it a career, so it'll be shocking to see. I mean, but he's towards the end though. It's the same thing. And also, yeah, Tampa Bay and Florida might be the must-see matchup because it's two teams that are in the postseason. Obviously, defending champs, and Florida taking on Tampa. Yeah, like I said, it's not a good night of NHL hockey. So I'm guessing I might be either binge watching Spinal Tap or just watching something to keep me interested. So, what about you guys?
Yeah, honestly, I think the battle for Florida is probably the most interesting game of the night. Aside from that, like you said, Ottawa, Winnipeg, maybe, but nothing that I'll carve the time out for to exclusively watch. Like something I'll keep tabs on it while I'm doing other things throughout the night. But
yeah, same here.
Nothing too crazy to quote unquote write home about.
Sure thing. Yeah, absolutely. Joey, would you watch any games tonight that grab your interest?
Well, I mean, I will peek in on Winnipeg and Ottawa. I might watch a period or two of the Panthers Lightning game, but outside of that, I'm not sitting through any whole game of any of these games because to be honest, like a lot of these games, they don't move the needle for me.
Right. That's true. Yeah, so we can probably next week when we come back and see you guys again. I'll probably there'll be a couple games. I think the Monday slate will be like 12 games because I think after that one, I think they play one more and then they close it out the holiday break until probably a couple days until after the holiday break. So I think that's when the Flyers will be in. I think they have a Canada road trip coming up here.
They play Chicago on the 23rd and then are off until the 28th. And it was against that's when they go to Seattle, and then they start the Canada trip on the 30th. It's Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton to start 2026.
Gotcha. Okay, so anywho, let's move on here. We got one more topic here before we close it out here tonight. So look ahead for the Flyers. Like I said early on this week, we got Montreal tomorrow. We got Sabres Thursday, Rangers on Saturday afternoon. Then we will be back with you on Monday to take the first of a back-to-back. We got Vancouver that night, and even Austin brought up back, and then close out the holiday break to take on the Blackhawks at United Center. So, guys, you guys got anything? Last final words before we say goodbye until next week?
Well, I got. Go ahead.
No, you're good, Joe. Go for it.
One of the things that I would say is I would really want to see what the moves are going to be for the Flyers actually leading into the new year. Because as you start to kind of get closer to the new year, you're going to start to see more and more like whether or not these guys have tread left on their tires. Once you
Hmm.
hit that 40-41 game mark, which we're closing in on, you're 42 game, 43 games, you're going to start to see that halfway mark. You're going to start to see whether these young legs still have tread on their tire and or whether they start to slow down. I remember last year, that started to happen for the Flyers.
Hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. That's one of the reasons why these next 2 weeks are so important to see and make sure that they continue this pace of play.
Hmm. Austin?
Yeah. Aside from that, hoping that the goaltending play of the combination of Vladar, Erison can stay strong because they've been incredible all season long, and just want to hope that momentum can carry for those guys to help sort of push the rest of the team forward throughout this stretch of games going into the end of the year and continuing through to the that international break that we're going to get.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you guys. Hopefully, it'll be a better outcome than it was the last couple times. Obviously, for me, basically got some good opportunities to win some games this week. They got a good matchup tomorrow against Montreal. I see them. Basically, I mean, maybe it's just me. I see a lot of positivity going forward with this team. I see a lot of good poise that they'll look like against Montreal. I mean, they usually, like I said, they don't lose games. I mean, when they lose games, it's like very motivational points going forward, especially going forward to what they'll look like down the road. And that will be something to ride home about more than anything, especially in these next couple months or so. And man, this is the most exciting time when you have a Flyers team that is, like you said, at their best. Putting that flag down and say that they're perfectly best is that Flyers hockey is damn right for sure officially back in South Philadelphia and also in the Delaware Valley. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of This Week of Flyers Hockey for this week. I want to thank Austin Hammel and Joey Marks like they always do. We always do. Austin, where can people see you next, my friend?
This upcoming Saturday on the Hardcore Play and Rewind podcast. We're not 100% certain on what game we're going to be doing next, but we will be getting that figured out in the next couple of days. But aside from that, as often as I can over here at twitch.tv/Hambo26, just continuing my Fallout New Vegas run. The new season of the Fallout show comes out in a few days, and I got a really good Black Friday deal on the Ultimate Edition of Fallout New Vegas with all the DLCs.
Sweet.
So I was like, of course I'm going to play it. I'm a huge Bethesda game guy, like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, all those games. So I definitely, the second I saw that deal, I was like, I'm doing that, and immediately started playing that on stream. It's been really fun, really frustrating sometimes, but mostly just remembering that the Wasteland is a horrible place.
I think that's why they call it the Wasteland.
Right?
Probably, more than likely.
More than likely.
just mutated wasps, dude. That's
Yep.
all I have to say.
Yeah, for sure.
I think like people go, the Wasteland sounds like a lovely place to play.
Sounds great.
Not Teenage Wasteland. It's just a wasteland.
No, just a Wasteland.
So Joe, you got a jam-packed show this week. I guess we got Pass and Av this week. You got any guest or anybody coming on this week, or we're gonna talk?
We're gonna play it by ear. I'm reaching out to some people. I'm trying to get a jam-packed guest panel together because it'll be the last Patterson Ave Fanatics of the year for 2025.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I could kind of get all that stuff in line. I'm hoping to reach out to some friends and get a nice panel going. But we're gonna talk some puck on Saturday.
Cool.
Because I honestly think depending on what this Flyers do this week too, that this Flyers team deserves to be discussed and discussed a little bit more than they have been. The Eagles, we're gonna review the Raiders game. We're gonna also talk more about the upcoming the upcoming why am I blanking on it?
The Commanders game. Oh, Raiders game. right?
No, the Commanders game. You're right.
Oh, Commanders game. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just say Comodes. We'll know what we're talking about here.
Right. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see or I see nothing. I know nothing.
But we might be moving up the time. I will let James know.
For sure.
My schedule's been pretty hectic this holiday season.
Yeah.
So just stay tuned for any schedule changes. But other than that, just follow me on Twitter, and hope to see all you guys then.
All right, cool. Sounds good, my friend. Sounds good, buddy. All right, so that's going to do it for us for here today. Until next week, we'll be back with you one more time until maybe we'll play it by year if we're going to do another one after the holiday break because that's right around New Year's, but we'll probably figure out what we're going to try to do for that time being But now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, for Joe and Marks and for Austin Hammel, I'm James Scorza. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And like I say, from all of us to all of you, thank you for everybody for watching. Good night, good hockey, and we'll see you guys right here, back here next week. Happy holidays, everybody.